Jen Clinehens here. I am the founder and managing director of Choice Hacking, and today I am back with another email psychology breakdown. This time I'm actually revisiting a brand that we've already talked about before, and that is Athletic Greens. And in fact, I did another breakdown earlier. It's, I think, my most popular email breakdown of this really interesting Let's Make a Habit email. So I'll leave the link for that in the description. But today's email is all about talking about benefits. So the benefits of this product and what exactly people can expect if they use Athletic Greens. They're not a sponsor. I just think that they do some really good email marketing. However, there are a couple things in this email that I would change. Today, I'm going to look at what's working in this email, what's not working, the psychology behind why, and some things that if I were creating this email, I would change. Let's start with the subject line. The subject line of this email is come for the convenience, stay for the benefits. And just so you know, I actually get these emails not because they've landed in my inbox. I get them because I use a service called Really Good Emails that has a lot of examples of different kinds of emails that you can take a look at. So I actually don't know what the target audience is for this email, but I'm going to make an assumption. I think whoever this is going out to is probably not somebody who's enjoying the product right now, but that's an assumption on my part. That's the assumption I'm going to do this entire breakdown with. So subject line, come for the convenience, stay for the benefits. Now, I'm going to say, like, one of my pet peeves in marketing is when a line is clever, but it's not clear. Imagine this lands in your inbox and you're not a customer of Athletic Greens. Is this going to make you curious? Are you going to want to open this email? Is this giving you a promise? It's not really. I would go back to the drawing board with the subject line. I would try to use or create a subject line that's going to leverage curiosity, like knowledge, something that's a little bit more concrete or interesting, so that making or taking that next step to click to open this email is a no-brainer. But as you can see, it's an email that's all about the different benefits of Athletic Greens. Again, I don't use Athletic Greens. I think greens are kind of a waste of money. Greens powders, that's just my opinion. But it's got a lot of different vitamins and things. You mix it up in this little Athletic Greens bottle. You pour it into a glass. Looks great. And you get all these fun things. Magnesium, adaptogens for resiliency and mood balance, CoQ10, phytonutrients, and so much more. I have to question actually why and so much more is in orange. I completely missed it. The shadow doesn't cover it up, but your eye sees this as one thing. Let me move on to the next point because I do talk a little bit about this, but I want to get into the headline before I dive too deep into this image. So, headline, benefits you can actually feel, asterisks. Now, I do feel for this email marketing team because it's clear they had a really good line, but technically benefits you can actually feel could be a claim. And in the marketing world, when it comes to health and fitness and medical devices, things like that, you cannot make a claim unless you either couch that claim and say this has not been independently verified by the FDA. And the reason they do that is so you don't get a bunch of like snake oil people who put in an email, hey, this product cures cancer or whatever, and it's not been proven to do any of that. But obviously AG1 has a really good legal department, and they said, listen, you can use the headline, but we want you to put an asterisk up here. Now, the downside of this asterisk is that's drawing a lot of attention, and it's sort of undermining the strength of the message, the strength of the headline, because they're making claims that need to be qualified. Now, let me go to the bottom of the email, because obviously it's been broken in two. But if you go to the bottom here, the asterisks and there's more than one asterisk in this email. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Which obviously they have to put in here because, again, it's a claim. So I do feel for the email marketing team because I do think that's a really good line. It gets to the benefits of the benefits. I can feel them. They make me feel better. And actually, if you look in this image, they do give you the benefits of all this. So magnesium and B vitamins. Okay, who cares? For focus and energy. Oh, okay, I get that's the benefit of taking B vitamins. Adaptogens. I don't know what an adaptogen is. Well, they're telling me it's for stress, resiliency, and mood balance. Great. The benefit. I understand why I need to take an adaptogen. And then this, to me, this so much more is kind of wasted space. I get that it's probably in there because some product manager was like, oh, we can't just have them think that these are the only 3 benefits. But again, I think this is just missed based off the way that this image is designed, and it would be a much cleaner image with 3 points if we got rid of this one. I get the feeling, because it's the 4th point and it's in a different color, that this was probably a debate on the email team with someone else. Because I know email teams, and I know email teams are going to put three bullet points in place. They're not going to put 4. But again, this is an assumption that we're making, but this is an assumption from many years of working in email teams. Okay, so we love a visual in place of a list of copy. And to be honest with you, it is a copy heavy, dense email. But the reason that we love an image is picture superiority effect. So images convey more information, they're better remembered, and they're more attention grabbing than copy. And also, if you notice, there's a hand and the hand is pouring, and we've got like some action here. It's very attention grabbing. But the hand on the product is something called haptic imagery. So when you show a person interacting with your product, you increase feelings of interactivity between your product and potential customers. So basically, I see a picture of someone touching and feeling using a product. I imagine myself, oh, that's my hand, and I'm pouring it, and I'm kind of getting a little bit of what's called the endowment effect. Basically, I'm becoming a little bit more emotionally engaged with this. I'm becoming a little bit more emotionally bonded with it. I'm imagining myself as the person who's interacting with the product, in other words. Now, it is worth mentioning that there is some additional research around this idea that for certain products, seeing someone touch and feel them and interact with them might not always be the greatest thing. So, for example, luxury products. We don't necessarily want to see somebody like touching a Bentley. You know what I mean? I don't want their hands all over my Bentley, in my mind. But for a product like this is actually really good. It is something, though, given the nuanced research, that I would definitely test. So if they're going to make a version of this with someone with their hand, I say also make a version of it with just the glass, pointing out the different benefits of AG1. And now to the bottom of this email. The header here, to me, is at odds with the list of non-included ingredients below. So this, to me, is the biggest miss in this email. And I'm just going to read this. What's not in AG1 is just as important as what is in AG1. Our science-driven formula of vitamins, minerals, prebiotics, probiotics, stress adaptogens, mushrooms, superfoods, and digestive enzymes has been tested for 950 contaminants, including herbicides and pesticides, or herbicides. Apparently I've been living in England too long. Not herbicides, herbicides. Oh, no, wait. Will we call it I don't know. I'm just confused myself now. Herbicides, and pesticides. It's always free from, now, you might be able to guess what I'm going to say. It's always free from gluten, dairy, GMOs, peanuts, added sugars, egg, lactose, animal byproducts. Okay. Now, let me ask you something. If I tell you something is free from something, and I put a check mark, and you miss this tiny little copy, what are you going to think? Now, in my mind, I saw this and I said, why are they telling me that Athletic Greens is full of dairy and gluten? Isn't that bad? Because it's a check mark next to something that they don't have. They should be putting little X's next to each one of these, not a check mark. And the reason I say that is because it's at odds with only the good stuff, which makes me think that they're going to then include a list of only the good stuff. If they're going to say no bad stuff and then little X's next to things, okay, that makes sense. But you can't say only the good stuff and then put a bunch of check marks next to things that are bad things that you don't want to have in Athletic Greens, because let's be honest, most people are not going to read this. They're just going to see a bunch of tick marks next to added sugars and egg, which is not a good thing. Now, why is that such a big deal? For two psychological reasons. So the first is a principle called congruence. Now, when copy and images flow together, they make sense together, information is easier to process. So think of it this way. If I see like a digital ad someplace and it's got an image of AG1 and it says only the good stuff, and I click on it and it takes me to a website that has like a bag of the powder and it says no bad stuff here. Those two things don't go together, right? It's causing me to like think one way and then change the way I'm thinking. A positive message and a negative message. This is not congruent. Now, if I saw an ad that said only the good stuff and I clicked on it and it said, here's all the great stuff that's inside of Athletic Greens, that's congruent because it's the same message. I'm thinking in a positive way in the first step and the second step. It makes processing information much easier because I don't have to stop and kind of orient myself and go, okay, what's going on? What kind of information are they trying to tell me? Which in reality is how people, no matter how smart they are going to process this information. So congruence is incredibly important. Now, this isn't an ad that I'm clicking and then I'm going to a landing page. However, I am reading this email or scanning this email, and I should be scanning in the same way. If you're going to send me a positive message, great. Send me a positive message all the way through. But don't then say only the good stuff and then list a bunch of bad stuff, but then put a check mark next to it like it's been included. Now, the second principle you need to keep in mind here is something called cognitive fluency. So that means something is easy to think about or process. When a headline and the body copy are at odds, people have to think harder to understand what the email is trying to say. I'm assuming this target audience is not a current customer of Athletic Greens. And if I'm not a current customer, I don't know that much about Athletic Greens. So I'm probably going to scan this email. I'm going to see a bunch of check marks next to like gluten, dairy, and GMOs, which I don't want. And then I'm going to see try AG1 and I'm going to say, nah, next, unsubscribe. Right? It's pretty much that easy. So congruence and cognitive fluency, very important. One thing I do want to call out here is I believe the CTAs would benefit from not being green. Now, I know that green is the brand color. Athletic Greens. It's like right in the name. It's got to be green. But it is less salient because it's used so much it can become wallpaper. So if everything is green, if you only have one accent color and it's green, you're going to miss things. And also the thing I would add here is that studies show that arrows on the right side of a CTA, they're kind of guiding you to the next step. They're helpful. They increase click-through rates. So that's an easy thing that I would just have them fix. But I want to go back and look at the whole email together because then you'll sort of see my point about why I think these calls to action should not be green. Right? Because there's green, there's green, there's green. All I see is green. I might actually, even though pink clearly is like one of my favorite colors, I would say pink. I would say maybe like a bright yellow, maybe red. You want it to be in line with the brand. You don't want it to be garish, but you want it to be salient. You want people to notice it. And contrast is a huge lever you can pull for salience. There's not a lot of contrast in this email. It just seems like a really, easy thing that they can test and just see, do our click-through rates go up if we have a contrasting color that isn't green? So I'll leave it at that. But this has been my thoughts on this Athletic Greens email. If you found this interesting, you can join my free newsletter. It's called Choice Hacking Ideas. We have about 8,000 subscribers from companies like Google, Coke, and Disney. And I talk all about what makes buyers tick. The link for that is in the description. And with that, I will see you in the next one.